All right, brothers, I got about 30 minutes or so before I need to get on a call. But first, I wanted to say skin check. Skin check for people out there going, oh, that's a Brad. That's a Brad. Uh, there's no Brads here, only facts. Also, have some books here because I want to let you guys know I am a student of the game. I do try to read many books so that I can get a better understanding of who we are. I started with this one, and it's a rougher read, but the brother makes a lot of great points and sort of started me down my path of discovery of things that I was already suspicious of. I also have ancient and modern Britons. A lot of you brothers probably already know what that's about. I am going to be delving into that from a different perspective a little bit today. I also have Hebrewism of West Africa. It's a good read as well. I have other books that suggest a Semitic or a Shemitic origin of some populations in Africa as well. Yep, I believe that too. I also believe the Moors were black. I know some people find that controversial. I know there's a Brad somewhere probably kicking his computer screen right now, but yes, I believe the Moors were black. I believe a lot of people in their original state probably were black. Um, but we'll delve in a little bit more. I also want to thank um, I also want to thank Ezekiel again for stepping up as a mod, and I want to take responsibility for what happened in the Discord because I had lax security on the Discord because we're a smaller channel right now. I just didn't think we'd have Brads infiltrating at this point, but a couple Brads did get in and deleted Ulixis, I think his name was, his financial advice that he had put in the Discord, and the brother was dropping gems. A Brad got in there and deleted what he posted. So I got to do better. I apologize for that. The process that Ezekiel made is very good, and I've already seen improved quality in the chats on the Discord. I will be monitoring more consistently from now on. And again, brothers, I apologize. And with Ulixis, I don't know if he went Bruce Banner on us. I'm just playing, but brother, you're welcome back to the Discord anytime. You're welcome back to this space anytime. I apologize for that, man. I should have got to your messages a little sooner when you told me about the Brads. Um, Sunday is like the only day off I have, so I spend a lot of that day buying groceries and running errands. And I actually logged on to start reviewing some work for the next day, and then I happened to find those messages. And sorry, man, I got to that situation way too late. So mistakes like this will happen when we start off, and I hope that I can do many projects with you brothers in the future. So, mistakes will happen, but all we can do is learn and do better next time. Ezekiel, from what I know, has implemented a skin check protocol, and I think that's necessary, and I think that's great. We need to know who we are. I also wanted to, real quickly, answer a couple questions in the comments. One of those comments was a brother asked me about Michael Jackson, and apparently he has the R1B haplotype group. So, brother was asking me if I consider him black. First of all, on this channel, brother, I don't have a testing lab here where you guys can submit me samples and I'll go, oh, well, due to these genetic markers, yeah, you're black. We're just going to go off of the principle of black father, black person. That's fine, especially if you know you were black, or especially if you know your father's black, your grandfather's black, etc., down your paternal line. We're just going to go with that. For people who don't know, haplogroups, they chart in a tree formation your ancestor, the original ancestor down your paternal line or your maternal line, combined with the mutations along the way. So the R is the original ancestor. So when you see R1b, that's charting an original ancestor that goes back about 45,000 years, I believe, and that was the R mutation. And when it's 1, that is a specific branch down that R ancestor line of mutation. And then that line branched off as well. So there's R1b, which is more common in Western Europe, the Iberian Peninsula, and extends down into Central Africa and even extends out into Western Africa in smaller degrees. And then there's R1A, which is more common in Eastern Europe and Southeast Asia, I believe. There's also R2, which is more like Indians and Pakistani people. That's that link that they claim along the Aryan line. Um, that's where it is. It's between that R1 and R2 variant of the R ancestor. That's where you get Cash Patel talking about, see you in Valhalla, brother. Looking Brown talking about Valhalla, which is an imaginary place, by the way. Back to what I was talking about. Um, First of all, the original R ancestor predates the white race. So um, I can't specifically say that having the R1b haplogroup specifically denotes a paternal white lineage. It could. It could mean that, but I'd have to know more information. Like, there's more genetic markers down an R1b branch that Michael Jackson's paternal line would have. As I said, there's different subclades, that's like branches down the R1b line. Some of them are more prevalent in Western Europe broader. Some of them are more prevalent in the Iberian Peninsula, and some of them are more prevalent in or in Central Africa, extending out to Western Africa in smaller concentrations. So that could be a white paternal ancestor, or it could be a link to a Moorish bloodline, which could, if you go far back enough, be a black ancestor. And that goes for a lot of people in the Iberian Peninsula and I'm sure certain subclades are more specific to a white person, but at the same time, you have to keep in mind, we consider all people white, but not all white people have the same haplogroup. Some of them are along the line of the R1A mutation. Some of them are along the line of the R1B mutation. Some of them have completely different haplogroups in the I section. Like, I believe a lot of Scandinavian white people are more in the I haplogroup. And keep in mind, all original ancestors of all haplogroups originate in Africa. That is why they have the out of Africa theory. Most African Americans, I believe, our haplogroups will be out of the E and L groups, but we do, for African Americans specifically, a certain percentage of us will have that R1b line. And like I said, it could descend from a white European paternal figure, or it could extend from a Moorish bloodline. I do find it funny that the R1b subclades do seem to be kind of distinct from the R1A. If all white people had the same line, you would think it would be a little more consistent. There's something in that R1b that I do think is a bit more intermingled with Africa and Arab descent. So I'll let you brothers kind of fill in the blanks there. And not for nothing, because I know there's always people like, oh, the Moors weren't black. I read in a book written by a Brad that the Moors weren't black. I think the Moors were black, and to be honest with you, I think a lot of people in Europe at an earlier time were black. I think they were expelled, and I think there was a handshake agreement to write them out of history. And one thing I wanted to show you, brothers, right here is this collection of photos. These are not from a book like African Presence in Early Europe. These are from my phone. They are from the Sainte-Chapelle Cathedral in France. And basically what you can see is there are black people in these images. What you'll also notice is someone tried very hard to deface them, but these images supposedly go back to the 1500s, and you can tell by the features that these are black people. You can tell by the hair that this is afro-like hair. This isn't like some European images where you'll see the person looks kind of dark, but the hair looks stringy and the nose looks thin. These people look like black people. And it looks like someone tried very hard to deface them. Some of them are fully defaced, but you can kind of tell by the figure and maybe a little bit of the leg, sometimes a little bit of the outline of the hair, that it is meant to be a black person. And some of these you can plainly see they are black people. And I also noticed, because they have white artifacts at this cathedral as well, all the white artifacts look newer than the black ones, kind of like they replaced them over time. Probably what they did was deface all of the black artifacts that they could and then replace them with white ones. But I can only speculate to that. But I thought it was important to show you brothers this. And I say all that to say, we do not know who all the ancestors of the R1b haplogroup are. It could have been people like this, if you go far enough down the line. That's why many Moors were expelled from Spain and went into Africa after they were expelled. And many went into the colonies that Spain owned during the earlier iterations of the slave trade prior to British involvement. That is true. So, as far as Michael Jackson goes, I'm going by the same principle I go with you guys, which is black father, black person. That will be the rule here. Next, I want to speak on this brother's comment, and I think I said in my response to him that I was going to include this into the conversation. When you see channels on YouTube being promoted, and I talked about this earlier, it's mostly what the algorithm feels is most marketable. And I use the algorithm on, in quotes, because I feel like there are gatekeepers that oversee the algorithm. That's intentional. There's a reason why certain content bubbles to the top and other content doesn't. I do appreciate Dr. Tiason Johnson's work, and I think it's most important that we have it and we teach each other those concepts. And I see this channel as the same thing. Its biggest value is that we are learning from these channels, because I don't expect greater YouTube and greater social media to promote this content. They don't want to educate us on our origin. They don't want to educate us on the true reason we are where we are and who all of our adversaries are. Because at the end of the day, if you have an enemy, you don't want to educate him on the battlefield. Okay, you want him to be in the dark as much as possible. I think they're afraid of us waking up one day and understanding what's really going on here. And there is a concerted effort to keep us in the dark. But like I said, I appreciate Dr. Tiason Johnson's work. I appreciate, but what you have to understand is, I believe he and BGS were trying to get work like that into conventional academia, and conventional academia does not want to talk about the abuse that men and boys go through. They deliberately suppress that information. There was a study in Harvard in the 2010s that found that women commit more domestic violence than men do, and Harvard suppressed it. So there's information that they'll accept there and information that they'll decline. The same goes with Black history. They're not going to teach the full scope of Black history in conventional academia. There's no benefit to them doing that from a white societal standpoint. Um, and I find it so funny that people will say, will push back so much on the Moors being black or there being an ancient presence of black people in Europe because, to be honest with you, Brad lies in modern times. He'll take a figure like Bass Reeves and make him the Lone Ranger. So why do you think he wouldn't lie about the origins of Europe, the origins of the Iberian Peninsula, the origins of Northern Africa, the origins of Aboriginal Americans in the Americas? I mean, it's just something to think about. And as far as Reddit goes, I don't really agree with the overall concept of Reddit to begin with. I don't like the karma system. I think it's supposed to be mirrored as the almost a social credit system in and of itself, where you're not really judged by the quality of your post. You're more judged by giving the most popular answer, the most agreed upon answer. Oftentimes is wrong, and you'll find the real answer if you keep scrolling down, and it's usually downvoted and then later banned. So I see Reddit as a platform of more social control. And one thing I noticed is 2X Chromosome is a subreddit with radical feminists who seem to lean towards Brad worship, even though they complain about patriarchy all day. But they won't let men have a pure red pill space. That is because they want women in there to act as overseers. That convention is always, that convention exists on YouTube. It exists on Reddit as well. In the black spaces as well. There's like I think there's a black girls subreddit or something like that, which is all women. But when you look at the black men subreddits, there's usually some type of Keisha involvement, or it's guys that are heavily pandering to Keisha so that they can keep that karma system flowing. It's like all Simpson there. So I don't really spend much time in those spaces. I don't see much quality content. I don't see much quality information being passed along there. We'll have to create those spaces. And hopefully, the Discord can be a space for that. And hopefully, this channel can be a space for that. Lastly, I only have a couple minutes left, but there was a brother holding out hope for Keisha in the black family, the traditional nuclear black family, and felt as if in the future Keisha was going to get her act together. And um, I said in my reply that brothers have been hoping for that for like the last 200 years, but he's still holding out hope. I'm going to try to sum this up as quickly as possible. People use that 85% of Black Americans are married to each other statistic a little disingenuously. You have to keep in mind that 1 in 4 Black women do not marry at all. So the Black women within that 85% are a subcategory of Black women that are grossly in the minority. Also, the divorce rate within that 85% is quite high, higher than the marriages of the other races. So, collectively, statistics would suggest, if you take emotions out of it, statistics would suggest that the majority of them do not want to marry Black men. You also have to take into consideration when they give you the 85%, they're counting all marriages, even, your grandpa and grandma, your boomer parents, they're counting all of that. If you look at marriages under 40, you'll see that the rate of marriages among Black women and Black men is half of that. I think it's roughly about 45 to 47%. So already it's much lower, and we have no guarantee that the Keishas of the future will ever marry a Black man or have any desire to marry a Black man. Also, you have to keep in consideration that the interracial marriage rate doubles every generation. So, all data points that I've mentioned trend in the favor of SYSBM. I do not see any statistical data that would suggest that Keisha is changing. Even if you look at political statistics, the majority of them vote Democrat, and they vote Democrat for the same reason, typically feminism. And as AC has touched on, feminism is for you, black man. They will be submissive for Brad. Feminism is for you. And the other, I think 8% of black women that voted for Trump were probably in those KKK clubhouse, spaces, asking MAGA Brad and KKK Brad to help get rid of us. So no, I'm not holding out hope for the black woman. I am saying brothers need to empower themselves and do what they need to do to take control of their destiny. Again, this is just like AC, a space for productive black men, and we're looking to find a new path forward. Thank you, brothers.